All right, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and where we're at today is actually one of the best places to come if you're a raw foodist and eating lots of fruits and vegetables like I am. We're here at the National Heirloom Expo. So this is the largest expo for basically fruits and vegetables out there. They're gonna have 4,000 different heirlooms on display here. So in this episode, what I'm gonna do with you guys is actually just share with you guys some of the heirlooms that on display here that you guys have probably never tried. I mean, I think it's quite sad that if you go to the supermarket and you go buy garlic, for example, garlic is only labeled garlic in the supermarket, but there's many varieties of garlic. Like at the same time, if you go into the store and buy apples, you know, you might have Gala apples, you might have Granny Smith apples, you might have Fuji apples, and they're all labeled. But there's many varieties of garlic, and when you're just buying garlic, you don't know what variety it is. So, you know, they have many different varieties of garlic and watermelons and squashes, and you guys know there's heirloom tomatoes. There's, you know, hundreds of kinds of heirloom tomatoes, and they all taste different. There's over 500 different types of peppers that are so amazing. So in this episode, we're gonna show you some of the amazing fruits in here, but also some of the other foods here that are raw and you could eat if you're into raw foods. So they have like fermented products and nuts and all kinds of cool stuff. So anyways, let's head inside and give you guys a tour of the National Heirloom Expo Raw Foodist Perspective. So now I'm going to show you guys the Hall of Flowers here. This is the main display area with all the different heirlooms on display. It said they have over 4,000 different varieties of heirlooms today. So let's go ahead and show you guys around. I'm not going to like read off every single variety because I'll be here all night because there's so many to go over. But I do want to give you guys a general overview of this building here. It's huge. We look at all the different heirlooms, lots of squashes, melons, tomatoes, and of course, every year they got the good old pile o' pumpkins right here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take you on a tour just to show you guys what it would have been like here. This is actually the Soda Rock Farms tomato display, some peppers also, all kinds of heirloom tomatoes. Man, each of these tomatoes taste entirely different, and man, they would be so delicious to eat. Next, of course, we've got my favorite compost company, Sonoma Compost. They have a little display here. This is an excellent use of the back of a pickup truck to grow your own food in. I actually have seen a truck garden before, and oh look, man, there's some ripe figs on that tree right there. So now I want to share with you guys some of the different watermelons here at the Heirloom Expo. As you guys can see, they got a whole table of watermelons and all different kinds. I mean, here's a white sugar lump watermelon. It's like mostly white on the inside. Here's a Malali watermelon, kind of pinkish. Here's a cool watermelon. I've had this before. It's actually yellow on the outside and red on the inside. All different kinds, actually. Some of my favorite watermelons are not actually the red ones, but they're the ones like this, the orange ones, and there's also a yellow one behind it. And here's another one, Cream of Saskatchewan. I think I had this actually when I was up in Canada. Nice white melon, and if you notice, all these melons have seeds, so heirlooms will always have seeds. You know, even if you're eating non-seeded melons, you know, or seedless melons, they've been hybridized. Now, does that mean you shouldn't eat them and they're GMO? Absolutely not. Seedless watermelons are not GMO, but always get the seeded whenever possible. There's actually nutrition in the seeds, and they're a good source of nutrients and have some fat in there. One of the coolest things they're doing now is actually they're taking the seeds and they're hulling them with a special huller, and then you can eat the inside or little kernels of the watermelon seed, which are actually quite delicious. But yeah, so many different varieties, and some of these guys are huge. Look at this guy. All right, if you're a raw foodist, how many meals is this for you? Man, this would probably last me about a week. It's like, I don't know, man, like 50 pounds of watermelon right there. All right, so one of the things that you may or may not eat as somebody into raw foods is actually pumpkins here. Here's a nice giant pumpkin. Ugh. Didn't even lift, bro. All right, so actually I like to juice my pumpkins actually because juicing the pumpkins makes them quite edible. Also, the pumpkin seeds are quite edible. They're a good source of fat. I grow personally hulless pumpkin seeds in pumpkins known as the Kakai pumpkin that are a really good storage seed for the winter, and they're so delicious, so much better than the ones you buy in the grocery store. As you guys can see, they have a huge selection of pumpkins. They have more varieties of pumpkins or squashes than any of their categories like the melons that you guys just saw. And I wanted to show you guys this one. Check this out. This is called the Musc de Marol, and this actually won a first place. Look how beautiful this thing is. This looks like a pumpkin with broccoli coming out of it. Look at that, or cauliflower. It's totally insane. This is known as a warty melon, and don't worry, you won't get genital warts if you eat this squash, because squashes and plants cannot share diseases. So yeah, I think I'm in luck. So if you got a hankering for cheese and you're into raw foods, don't worry any longer, because now you could have the Long Island cheese pumpkin right here, squash. Check it out. I bet if you cut it open, it probably looks like some nice, rich cheddar cheese here. And of course, I would juice this on up. You know, once again, with different heirlooms, each heirloom on this table, there's probably over 100 heirlooms easily on this table. They taste entirely different, have a unique flavor and taste profile. Now, if you're not all raw, that's all right. I definitely recommend, you know, steaming or boiling your pumpkins or hard squashes to eat. That's one of the healthiest ways to consume the squashes, which are really rich in carbohydrates and also really rich in antioxidants. And these low temperature methods of cooking are definitely the best to preserve the most nutrition and get the most health benefit out of these squashes, that are also really good for storing in the winter. So if you do garden and grow your own food, these squashes are excellent because they will store in a cold cellar, you know, for months on end, and they won't go bad like, you know, some of the watermelons tend to expire much more quickly. So now we're going to share with you guys actually the Redwood Empire chapter of the California Rare Fruit Growers. There's so many different unique fruits. Once again, there are heirlooms. This time of year, it's apple season, so they primarily have apples. If it was another time of year, they would have different varieties of peaches or nectarines or, you know, plums or cherries. As you guys can see, all different kinds of apples. They probably have, I don't know, over 100 different varieties of apples, and they all are unique and different. Here's a winter banana apple, the Golden Delicious many you guys are familiar with, but there's so many unknown apples, the ginger gold, each one totally different. The Lady Williams is from Australia, 1935. The Yates from Georgia, 1813. And they got even the whole other side of the table there with even more apples you could sample. You could literally try over 100 different varieties of apples if you would have come to the Heirloom Expo this year. And guess what? They'll be doing it again next year. And you know, I think it's really sad that if you just go to the store, once again, you know, you're not gonna get some of these crazy varieties of apples that you could try here. I mean, literally, industry and agriculture trying to reduce the amount of varieties, and you know, at least with apples you could get maybe a dozen varieties at your local supermarket when they're in season. But I mean, there's hundreds of varieties of apples. I've tasted over 100 varieties, and you know, some of them I like a lot and some of them I definitely like less. And I think, you know, the genetic diversity is probably one of the biggest important things in heirlooms, and preserving some of these trees and the genetics of these by growing these out and getting them out to people. Super critical, super important in this day and age. Here's some heirloom apples I was just handed. I bet these taste far better than any of the ones in the store. I mean, one of the things also about heirlooms, because they are unique and different, a lot of the ones you guys are finding in the store are the ones that store and ship and are put in cold storage really well. Some of these apples, once they're ripe, they expire very quickly. Actually, this one's already bruised up, right? And that's how it would be in nature, right? So we're eating very limited amount of different foods. If you're shopping at your local, you know, health food store or grocery store, right? Very limited amount of variety. So I always want to encourage you guys to support your local farmers markets. They're usually growing more of a diversity, but if you want the most diversity, you literally got to grow it yourself. I think the next thing I want to do in this video is actually to, besides all the heirlooms inside here, there's a cool few food vendors that actually have some amazing raw foods that I want to share in this episode. So let's go head out there and share with you guys some of the cool food vendors at the Heirloom Expo. All right, so this is a food area here at the Heirloom Expo. There's so many different choices of food, but I'm glad that they're using a lot of local heirloom and organic foods here in the food area. Of course, for me, I brought all the food that I'm eating, most of it out of my garden actually, and making watermelon juice instead of drinking water at the booth every day. And I always encourage you guys to, whenever you can, even if you travel, you know, bring the foods you ate. Whether that means you're gonna dehydrate them, or even better yet, ferment them, like one of the booths right here. So let me go ahead and share one of the food booths, my favorite food booth here at this event. And if you come next year, you're definitely gonna wanna visit them as well. All right, so now we're gonna check out one of my cool favorite raw food booths here. It's actually called Farm to Ferments. And what they're doing here is they're fermenting food. I really love fermented foods, and of all the places at the Heirloom Expo, this place has definitely the best stuff. I've sampled many of them here, and they got different kinds of sauerkrauts and beet krauts, and they got basically like a really good kimchi. They got this thing called Cordito, which is like an El Salvadorian ferment that I've never tasted before in my life, and it's my favorite one by far. Literally, they're two brothers that one of them learned about fermentation. His other brother like got sick, and then his other brother fed him fermented foods and got him better, and now they're just so much into, you know, sustainability and providing good food, good local food, and food that really tastes good. I mean, these guys went the extra mile to have like dishes instead of like things that you're gonna throw away, and reuse instead of recycle. And they got, you know, forks and all this kind of stuff. The stuff is super amazing. Unfortunately, they're not in any stores yet, so if you want to get their stuff, you're gonna have to come hopefully to the Heirloom Expo next year to visit them. And to learn more about them, you can check them out at farmtoferments.com. Hopefully they'll be in a Whole Foods store near you, and check them out at their website and learn where to buy their products. I definitely want to encourage you guys to include fermented foods in your diet. Now, I don't like make meals of fermented foods, but I like to have some small amounts of fermented foods in my daily salad in the evening. I believe fermented foods are very beneficial for the beneficial probiotics that they contain, and it's especially easy when they taste so good, like the guys here at Farm to Ferments. So now I want to share with you guys another really cool booth here at the Heirloom Expo. It's actually the Good Faith Farm here, and what they do is they do olives, and I love olives. Olives are definitely delicious, nice, rich, fatty food that I like to include in my diet, but it's very important that you get good, clean, raw olives if you're on a raw diet. And that's why I like their olives here. I've had them many times, and here, you know, they're not doing heat canning, they're not processing their olives with lye that many olives are processed with, and especially if you're buying those olives off the, you know, the olive bar at many of those stores and whatnot, a lot of them are processed with lye, and they may not even be listed on there. So I don't even eat those because it'll make my mouth kind of feel all weird. So unless it's like an olive that I know how it was cured or I did it myself, I'm pretty much just not eating it. And I can definitely say that these are some of the best olives. They use Northern California sea salt and also the real salt from Utah. And it's some of the purest salts, not just the standard iodized salt, the crap salt, you know, that you definitely don't want to eat. Now, if you're on a low salt diet, what I recommend is getting some of their olives, and their olives that are actually in the brines actually have a lower salt than their dried olives. What you could do, and what I do normally, is I take out the brine when I get home, I pour this off, and then I fill this up with like purified water, like reverse osmosis or distilled, and then I'll fill that up with water that'll leach out a little bit more salt so they have more of the olive flavor without the salt, if that's what you're after. And this is my favorite olive that they have. This is plain Kalamata, and this is super delicious. And then in addition, besides that, they started doing a new thing, and these are the dried olives, and these are some of the best dried olives that I've tasted to date. These are whole, partially dried olives, dried Kalamata with the pits in there. These are super good, only cured with the salt. And then also they have these guys, man, these guys are a delicacy right here. Raw, semi-dried, hand-pitted olives. So these are all pitted by hand. Takes a lot of time. These guys cost a lot of money, and you do not want to overeat these, but just a few, like in a salad dressing or at night, flavoring on a salad, man, could just make your salad that much better and that much more enjoyable to eat. So to learn more about the Good Faith Farm and the olives they produce, you want to check them out at goodfaithfarm.com. So next I want to share with you guys another cool raw food product that's available here at the Heirloom Expo. It's actually the biotic beverages, and why it's biotic is because it's like probiotic, and this is going to basically infuse the beneficial microbes within you. If you don't want to take a little supplement powder, pill, or tablet, right? This is the natural way to get it. They infuse 6 different beneficial microorganisms into the beet kvass, and the kvass used with beets originally from the Ukraine. They basically just take the beets and ferment it with a little bit of salt, and they add the culture, and the beneficial microbes multiply, so now you can get the benefit of them in your body. And besides that, you're also getting some beets in you, and beets are very healthy food. They're definitely detoxifying, full of a lot of good nutrients. So we're gonna go ahead and try this beet kvass by Biotic Beverages. They also do have a sweet potato kvass that is probably my favorite kvass that I've ever tasted in the world, and I tasted a couple days earlier. Unfortunately, they're all sold out now. So if you see these guys, you want to get the sweet potato one. It's the bomb. All right, here's the beet kvass here. A little bit carbonated. It's not really like beet juice would be really strong. It kind of has like a little bite to it. Very little salt. I like that there's very little salt in here. A bit watery. delicious. This would also make really a good starter for like making a dressing or something like that. Maybe thicken it up with some sun-dried tomatoes or some other thickener. Wow, delicious. So to learn more about Biotic Beverages, you can check them out at bioticbeverages.com. That's like the Biotic man. All right, so now we're gonna share with you guys a really cool raw food here that they're offering. This is actually the Philosopher's Stone Ground. That's the name of the company. And what they're doing is something totally different. This is the best nut butter on the market by far. All the ones I've ever tasted. I mean, they won the taste test. So let me show you guys what they're doing here. So we got here is this is their sprouted almond buttered naked crunchy, man. This by far is my favorite one. And look at that. This is crunchy, delicious goodness in here. And the reason that this nut butter is different than any other nut butter on the market is because they just don't take the almonds and ground them up and put them in a jar and sell them to you guys, because many nut butter companies are just using like California raw almonds that really are pasteurized. So even your raw almond butter you guys are buying, it's cooked. Cooked, man, say it. So it's really not really raw. So this almond butter is different because they actually get almonds that are grown in Spain and then that are raw because they do not need to be pasteurized. They then soak them in filtered water, right? And then they let them start to sprout, so this reduces the enzyme inhibitors, enhances the nutrition in the almond. They then take this is a very laborious process, they then take the almonds and then they dehydrate them at 115 degrees to get all the moisture out of them. And then they take and stone grind them on a stone grinder mill that runs for like 6+ hours to get this nut butter you guys are seeing that I'm gonna taste. And I don't wanna taste too much, man, because my mouth is gonna be stuck like a dog trying to eat peanut butter. You could really taste the difference in this nut butter. Completely amazing. Now, for those of you guys that don't like the crunchy, don't worry, they got a smooth. So there's a smooth, look at this smooth stuff, man. This is so rich and creamy. I mean, you cannot get this consistency in other nut butters. Other nut butters will be like, you know, like solidify in the jar. I mean, look at this. This is like, oh my God, this is like so creamy. It's like oily. This is so insane. Let's go ahead and try a little bit here. Wow, I mean, this is like nut butter heaven right here. If you guys love nut butters, you guys are gonna love the Philosopher's Stone raw nut butters. Sprouted, best one I've ever tasted. You could buy this stuff online, so even if you're not here at the show to buy this stuff, which is amazing because this is, you know, barely sold in any retailers. This is like a small company. They have limited distribution right now, but you guys are lucky. They'll send it to you. So you can learn more about their nut butters at thephilosophers.stoneground.com. And if you want to order online, you can check out bsynchro.com and be sure to use the word MyFirst for $1 off your first order. All right, so as you guys can see, it's the end of the Heirloom Expo. Actually, all this is getting loaded up to take it to charity. And that's definitely really cool. A lot of other people are sampling some of the things and taking some food home. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, learning about some of the different raw foods and heirlooms specifically. I mean, really the goal of this video for you guys is to eat more fruits and vegetables. However you gotta do it. If you wanna eat them fresh, and I wanna get you guys to increase your varieties that you're eating, you know, and try to include more heirlooms, and really to get them, you're gonna have to grow them yourself because they're not gonna be found at your local grocery store or even at Whole Foods in all the massive varieties, because some of these things just don't simply store or ship well. And there's so many different more flavors than you could have than just 30 bananas a day. You know, you could have 30 different kinds you could have 100 different kinds of melons for 3 months straight. You could eat one different kind of melon that would totally taste different from the last one you have. And it's this diversity and genetic diversity. It's really important, and especially as people into raw foods, save your seeds and replant them out and see what you get, you know, see what you get. So I'm gonna encourage you guys to eat a diverse diet and eat as much fruits and vegetables as you can, whether you gotta eat them fresh or, like I showed earlier in this episode, fermented. I love my fermented vegetables. So anyways, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com, and until next time, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best. All right, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and yes, I'm up very early in the morning, set the alarm to wake up quite early to come out here because I'm at another wholesale produce terminal for you guys. I've been around more whole